Quantity, measure, and food category values are used to describe recipe and meal records. To access the Quantities, Measures, Food Categories page, click the Command button. The initial display of this form will only show 3 command buttons. You can click one of the command buttons to open its respective form. You can open the other forms at the same time. You can close any open form by clicking its command button a second time. Quantity values are used to set the serving size quality value when specifying a recipe's single serving size. They're also used to quantify the amount of a recipe or meal line item ingredient. There are 2 types of quantity records: private records and public records. By default, every new quantity value created by a user is a private record. However, the CookBookPlus, the web systems administrator, may elect to make a privately created quality value publicly viewable. This is usually the case when it's a widely used value, such as the value 8. When viewing a quantity record and there's a check mark in the public control that means it's a publicly viewable quantity. A quantity is selected by using the drop-down. Make a selection. That record is highlighted in the list. Note that the selected item is highlighted in blue. When viewing a public quantity value, you'll be able to add new records, but you won't be able to edit or delete the public quantity value. I'll navigate to another quantity. In this case, it'll be 72. And if I scroll down, you can see that 72 is highlighted. 72 is a private quantity value. Accordingly, you can add new record, you can also update 72, and you can delete 72. Quantity values in CookBookPlus are actually displayed as a text value. This allows the display value to include special characters such as the ampersand and slash symbols. This approach makes for a more pleasant presentation when recipe or meal records are printed. Accordingly, quantity values in CookBookPlus exist in the database records as paired values. A numerical value is always paired with the associated text value. In the current example, quantity 72 is actually the text string 72$, but it represents the numerical value of 72 or 72.0. I'll use the drop-down to select a different value. This time, let's select 15.5. Now let me scroll down so we can see that. In this example, the displayed quantity value includes both the ampersand and the slash symbol. However, its numerical value is 15.5. The value used for the displayed quantity value can be any text string. It can also be a decimal form text string like to text characters 15.5. Scroll back up to the top of the page. To create a new quantity value, click the Add Command button. In the quantity text box, type the text value for the display of the quantity. In this case, we're going to create a quantity for 10.5. Now I'm going to use the ampersand. Then I'm going to use 1/2 to represent 1/2. Here, I'll enter the numeric value of 10.5, that's 10.5. To add 10.5 to the record set, click the Add Command button a second time. We now have a new quantity, 10.5. If we scroll down, we can see that that record was added, and because it showed up on the drop-down, it is also currently selected. Note the false in the column for public record. That's because the checkbox here is not checked. Be very cautious when creating a new quantity value, particularly when pairing the text value with the numeric value. You want to make sure the numeric value is accurate. The numeric value is used to do all the computations in Cookbook, plus for things such as calorie counts and nutritional outcome. To edit an existing quantity value, make sure it's selected in the drop-down. We're going to work on 10.5. And then click the Update Command button. Make your edits in the salmon-colored fields for this example. I'm going to change the text value of 10.5 to 10.5 just as an example. To save the changes, click the Update Command button a second time. Now we can see that both the text representation of the quantity and its numerical value look the same. By the way, you can have as many different quantity values using a different text value for the same numerical value. To delete an existing private quantity value, make sure it is selected in the drop-down, then click the Delete Command button. Note the warning at the top of the screen. There is no undo available for this action. To proceed, click the Delete Command button a second time. Note that we've returned to the first quantity value in the record set. If we open the drop-down and scroll down, we'll see that 10.5 has been deleted. Off camera, I've recreated our example quantity 10.5, and I've also used it in a meal record. Let's navigate to 10.5. There it is selected. Still private, so I'm going to try to delete it. Note the message at the top of the screen. It cannot delete a quality, private, or otherwise if it's been used in someone's recipe or meal record. Again, off camera, I've used the quantity 10.5 in a recipe's measure value for a single serving size. Let's try to delete it again. Note the message at the top of the screen. It's different. It simply says that it's been used in a recipe or meal serving quantity value, so you can't delete it. To work with measure values, click the Command button. Measure values are used to define food item ingredients. They are also used to define the serving size measure when specifying a recipe's single serving size. There are two types of measures: private measures and public measures. When viewing a public measure, you'll be able to add a new measure, but you will not be able to update or delete a measure. To navigate to a measure, make a selection in the drop-down. For this example, we'll navigate to the measure called medium. This is a private measure, so you can add, update, or delete measures. By default, all new measures created by a user are private measures. However, the CookBookPlus on the Web Systems Administrator can elect to make a private measure publicly viewable. To add a new measure, click the Command button Add. Enter the name for the new measure. We'll call this New Measure. To save the new measure, click the Add Command button a second time. To edit a measure, make sure it's selected in the drop-down, then click the Update Command button. Make a change to the value of the measure for this example. I'll enter the word changed. To save the update, click the Update Command button a second time. By the way, if you want to cancel any edit, you can always hit Reset. I'll click Update. To delete an existing measure, make sure that the measure is selected in the drop-down. Also, make sure it hasn't been used in any recipe or meal records. If you should try to delete a measure value that's been used in any recipe or meals, you won't be allowed to. To proceed with the delete, because we know we've never used this one, click the Delete Command button again it's selected. Note the warning at the top of the screen. There's no undo for this. To commit the delete, click the Delete Command button a second time. Of course, you could cancel with the reset. I'll click Delete. When finished working with measures, we can close the controls by clicking the Command button a second time. To work with food categories, click the Command button. Food category values are used to describe recipe records and meal records. There are two types of food category records: private records and public records. If you are viewing a public food category, you will be having to add a new food category, but you will not be able to update or delete. We'll navigate to a different food category. This time we'll go to Snack Item. Snack Item is a private food category, so you can add, update, and delete. Food categories are defined by two value fields. There's a type value field and the food category field. There are only two type values allowed: meals or recipes. To add a new food category, click the Command button. Add, for this example, we'll create a recipe type. To do that, we need to type the word recipe into this text box. Then use the tab key that puts the cursor in the food category field. For this example, I'll call this food category New Food Category. To save the new food category, click the Add Command button a second time. To edit a food category, make sure it's selected in the drop-down, then click the Update Command button. You can only make changes to the food category field. You cannot change the type field. For this example, we'll call this New Food Category 2. To commit the change, click the Update Command button a second time. To delete a food category first, make sure it's selected, then click the Delete Command button. If you have previously used the food category in any of your records, you will not be allowed to delete the value. To proceed with the delete, click the Delete Command button a second time. When finished working with food categories, close the form by clicking the Command button a second time, and we'll navigate back to the main form.